these were beautiful and full human beings, that they had families and friends who loved them, that they brought their special Asian American magic to this country and this world, and that they were cut down by hate and violence. We remember them to honor them, and we also remember why this happened. The long history of anti-Asian racism and misogyny that targeted these Asian American women. We remember them to resolve, to change what gives rise to this kind of ignorance, the hate, the blaming of the other. We remember them to take action because we want communities that, and a society where everyone can go for a walk and be safe from hate and violence. Lily Chin, the mother of Vincent Chin, was so brave because she spoke up even in the midst of her deepest grief. She was our Mamie Till, like the mother of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old black teenager who was killed and lynched in Mississippi because of anti-black racism. If Lily were here today, I know she would say to you, no other mother should have a child that she loses to hate and violence. But sadly, we're here today because too many other mothers and families continue to lose loved ones to hate and to violence. This year, there have been several other remembrances, Vicha Ratanapakdi, Yik Oi Huang, many others who were lost, killed in San Francisco or otherwise harmed. And just last year, just this week, we have news about Yang Fu Wu from the Bayview. These were all elders out to take a walk in their own neighborhoods. All of the families of the three that I just mentioned are still waiting for justice, still waiting to hear something to be done with the killings, the murders of their family members. And we know that justice delayed is justice denied. So as we remember and honor the 8 people who were killed by through anti-Asian hate on this day 3 years ago, we must also commit to fighting for communities and a society where everyone can live without fear of hate and violence, regardless of race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, ability, age, language, immigration status, and more. Where Asian Americans of any age can go for a walk, take public transportation to go to work or to school, go shopping, and take the garbage out without fear of being attacked. When we remember the tragedy in Atlanta, we can't stop there. We must also remember what happened after the violence. What happened to the families, to the community after these tragedies took place? Because the trauma continues well beyond the initial shock goes away. What happened to bring justice to the families and their losses? If we don't know what happened, then we need to find out so that we can remember and so that we can learn and do better the next time and be prepared if there is a next time. And my friends, I'm sorry I have to say that there will be a next time for as long as Chinese and Asians, Muslims and immigrants are blamed for all the problems in America. We must remember so that we can learn and make change. Did Asian Americans come together in Pan-Asian unity? Did people organize for change and build solidarity with other communities across race, gender, and other identities? What about public officials, law enforcement, courts, and politicians? Were they held accountable for whatever actions did or didn't take place to address anti-Asian hate and systemic racism that exists today? For example, when police take the side of the killer and say, oh, he was just having a bad day. And I'm sorry to say that in my humble opinion, Our Asian American communities are not visible enough, not strong enough to demand and to get accountability. I have copies outside of the Asian American produced Vincent Chin Legacy Guide from the Vincent Chin Institute that was created last year, and one of the parts of the Legacy Guide has 4 pages in it of about 40 different people over the years who were killed, and it talks about what happened after. And I'm sorry to say that there are many others beyond 40, but in these we can trace what happened to them. And so what happened when a Chinese American was on a subway train going home after a long day of work, and somebody else on the train was eating an egg roll, looked over and saw that Chinese American, took the egg roll and shoved it in his face, saying, "Hey, egg roll, hey, egg roll," and then stabbed him to death. What happened after that? Well, the police said that has nothing to do with race, because of course, egg roll is not a racial slur. Or what happened to Navrozi Modi, who was just going home from work as well, when a gang called the Dot Busters, because of the bindi that many Indian people wear, called him "Hey Hindu, hey Hindu," and by the way, he was not a Hindu, and then beat him to death. What happened then? Well, actually, nothing happened in terms of calling it a hate crime, or actually, nobody went to jail in that particular case, because why? Well, Hindu is not a racial slur either. How do we hold our society accountable for all of these things? I don't know the magic words that can be said that would declare something a racial incident when it involves an Asian. What? When Vincent Chin was killed, it was, "Let's get the Chinese. It's because of you mother F's that we're out of work." Those are not racial slurs either. And so his killers were never found to have violated Vincent Chin's civil rights. So we need to find ways to hold our society, our public officials, our law enforcement, our courts, our media accountable. And if they don't know, we need to teach them as well. So, we have to address the deniers who say there is no such thing as anti-Asian hate or anti-Asian racism. So every June 23rd, for the last 41 years, I have paused to remember Vincent Chin. And I've been part of many remembrances like today for Vincent and for his family in these 4 decades. And so in 1922, we had the 40th year remembrance that took place in the middle of the pandemic, including the pandemic of hate against anti-Asian hate. And you know what surprised me in this pandemic of hate? The anti-Asian racism and the attacks actually didn't surprise me at all. The biggest surprise to me was when people didn't even know that anti-Asian racism exists. Yep. That we saw so many videos and so many podcasts where people who had been pushed and spat on and cursed at, and much worse, said in their videos, "I never knew this could happen." And this is why we must remember, and why we must educate ourselves and our communities and our families, so that Asian American communities will be visible and strong enough to demand accountability and change. This is why we come together today. This is why we put together this Vincent Chin Legacy Guide and set up the Vincent Chin Institute to deal with what's even still happening after 40 years, and to teach the lessons of what we learned 40 years ago and in all of the incidents that have happened since that time. And so, we have these remembrances not just to remember the pain and the sorrow and the tragedies, but to remember what happened after. How did the community get organized? In Detroit, how did the community beat back the institutional racism in the courts and in the media? How Asian Americans came together and stood with black, brown, Arab Americans, and people of every faith and background to fight together for equal justice in our society. That's why we are coming together to remember, and so that we can honor the many people who have been hurt or lost their lives to anti-Asian hate and other people who have died from hate and violence. So there's still a lot for us to do so that Asian Americans are not surprised about, oh, there's racism that exists, but that our communities can be educated and be prepared to be visible and organized whenever there is hate toward any people, including Asian Americans. And I have a long list myself of things that still remain to be done. You know, education, K through 12, yes, every state should mandate this and beyond, of course, in our communities. Accountability. Why is it that none of our anti-Asian hate databases ask, what happened after the incident? It's one thing to report an incident, it's another to say, what happened? Who did you call? What did they do? Where did you get help? Did they do anything or did they do nothing? And if we can collect information on who did nothing or worse, or blamed it on a bad day, we can then hold people accountable. And we must build Asian American networks of advocacy and support. What happens to Asian Americans in the vast middle of America, away from the urban coastal cities? You know, I mean, even in San Francisco, we know that there are many who don't get the attention that they need, whether it's by our government or courts or police or communities or media. What about the people in the middle of America? What about the people in the middle of California? There are a lot of difficult conversations that still have to be had, you know, such as what will make our communities safe? Even in our own Asian American communities, where Justin pointed out that, you know, public safety is the #1 issue, we do not have conversations, difficult conversations on what public safety could mean. We know there's a lot of, a whole spectrum of opinions on that, and people aren't talking to each other about it. So there's still a lot that has to be done. You're here today because you also want to remember and honor the people whose lives were lost and to see change. And I thank and salute you for being here and being part of this effort, because this is the best way for us to honor the Asian American women who were killed in Atlanta. The best way to honor them is to fight hate and violence and to build solidarity to get systemic change. So we remember and honor the Atlanta women, and we are here to tell the world that these were beautiful and full human beings, that they had families and friends who loved them, that they brought their special Asian American magic to this country and the world. We are here to be visible and strong and to say no more hate. We are here to say stand with Asian Americans. We are here to say stand together against hate. So please join me in saying stand together against hate. Let's stand together against hate. Everybody, stand together against hate. So thank you all for everything each one of you is doing, and let's make a lot of good trouble together. Thank you.